Tabitha Polenz, and I'm the president of Vedas Living, and this is the Raw series. And I have some guests on today that are unique. They're not the typical women guests that I have. And the topic for today is elevating those in need. So my guests are from True Freedom Ministries. And today I have on Mike Swiger. Welcome, Mike. And
Hello.
David Wessel. Welcome, David.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I love what you guys are doing. I've visited some of the sites and gotten to know True Freedom Ministries and fell in love with it. One, because it resonates with me, but because of all the wonderful things that you guys are doing. And I want to share this so that other people can understand and become more aware of what you're doing, and then maybe even help and support your charity and all the facets that you guys are involved in. So if you wouldn't mind just telling the viewers what your roles are with True Freedom Ministries, what is True Freedom Ministries, why did you get involved, just kind of a little backstory.
Sure. True Freedom is a Cleveland-based nonprofit, and we have three major areas of outreach. We do addiction recovery programming in the inner city of Cleveland. We do homeless outreach. We feed hot meals on the streets of Cleveland. And the largest thing we do is prison ministry. We're in every prison in the state of Ohio. We do adult males, adult females, and juvenile prison ministry. And in that spheres, we do typical inside facility programming. We do worship services, Bible studies, we do mentorship and discipleship, but we also do unusual things. We have a barber shop and a shoe shine shop instead of a prison where volunteers are able to get their hair cut, and so barbers can keep their licenses current. We have a computer lab we installed inside of Grafton at our expense to train people how to do Word, Excel, PowerPoint, practice job interviewing skills. We have a wood shop. We have a screen printing shop so guys can learn trades while they're in prison. And then we also have a work release program where we take people out of prison during the last 6 months of incarceration and have them do an externship with a real private company to get real world experience prior to release. We do this with the women in the Northeast Reintegration Center. There's a women's prison right in Cleveland. 750 women in prison on East 30th Street. You visited that facility. We have Grafton, was a men's prison out in Lorain County. So those are the populations we pull from. So we do non-traditional outreach as well. So True Freedom has three major silos, and we are much a volunteer-driven organization in all those areas. We have a very small staff with over 100 volunteers that help us do the work that we do. So as far as nonprofits go, we're very lean. We're very efficient. We have a very high 15-to-1 staff to volunteer ratio, or volunteer to staff ratio.
Wow. And your role, Mike, is what?
I'm the executive director. In my responsibilities, I run the administrative part of the ministry. I help with fundraising, but I'm also a frontline outreach person. I do services, I do counseling, I do teaching. We produce video. During COVID, we've been doing a lot of virtual programming, so I've produced a lot of that content as well. That's
great. And why did you get involved with True Freedom Ministries?
For me, it was a very personal thing. I am the product of prison ministry. I went to prison when I was 21 years old as a student at Case Western. My brother was a student at law school. My father was a county commissioner, so not the typical cast of characters. But through that experience, I came to faith in Jesus Christ. And then I was discipled when I was in prison. And during that time, I went to college. I learned how to write. I got involved with other nonprofits while I was a recipient of their outreaches. So when I came home, it was a natural extension for me to go back and help the people I left behind.
David, why did you get involved with True Freedom Ministries? And what's your role?
Yeah, I am the development director at True Freedom Ministries. So I try to find volunteers, partnerships, financial help to help us accomplish our mission. My contract also says all other duties assigned. So anything goes my way, I want to help. Mike works extremely hard for a lot of years. He models work ethic. And so I do a lot more than just that. I will teach, I will counsel, just about anything, help guys, get reconnected to their families and so forth when they get out of prison, help them find jobs. And so really just work alongside Mike to accomplish the vision, not only for the ministries, but for the work release part as well. I started volunteering with True Freedom about 6 years ago. Started with feeding the homeless, and then I started working with guys that were struggling with addictions and coming home from prison. And then I went into prison and saw worship service firsthand and ended up quitting my job. I had 23 years in public education. I was the principal at Chagrin Falls. And so I went from working in Chagrin to working on the corner of crack and crime in Cleveland. and, just quit my job and decided just to help Mike full time. And it was really the parable of the Good Samaritan. In that parable, of course, the Levite and the priest passed by with a Jew who's half dead, but it was the Samaritan that came and showed mercy. And with all the brokenness in our city, Cleveland is now the poorest large city in the country. And no, Mike, it's also love your neighbors yourself. Mike was working 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I knew he could not sustain them by himself. Not that I'm as talented as Mike, but I knew I could do some of those things to help us accomplish our mission. And I trust him like a brother. And so quit what I was doing, which financially didn't make sense, especially from a retirement standpoint, but knew Mike needed help and our city desperately needs help. The amazing thing is I have a wonderful wife with 8 children. 2 were facing the cost of higher education at the time, and she was all in. I don't know how many wives would say, sure, take a pay cut, not really have a job security, no real health care, to go work for a nonprofit, work with Mike Swiger. But she was all in. I have a warrior for a wife, and she walks alongside me. Prior to COVID, she was involved in the addiction recovery program for women. At True Freedom, we always have women work with women, men work with men. Mm-hmm. And so she was very involved, and she would take her car into the hood and bad sections of town and pick up women and bring them, and she's all in.
Wow. And some of the things that you guys have mentioned to me that are on the rise is like addiction recovery right now. Yeah. So a lot of people, because of COVID, they're seeing some major challenges. You're seeing an uprise in homelessness. Mm-hmm. It's impacting what you guys can do.
It is. Unfortunately, because of the lockdowns, people who typically go to a weekly meeting or have a sponsor that helps hold them accountable, they lost that contact. For several months we were locked down, unable to do any programming. Our organization was shut down from March 15th until just the first part of July, when we were able to relaunch under CDC guidelines with limited connectivity with our group. So in Cuyahoga County, we're on pace again after 3 years of decline to have the worst year of overdose deaths in 2020. In fact, by May, we were hitting 2019 year-end totals already. So it's a huge spike, which is an unfortunate collateral sanction that came about with these lockdowns, is that people lost touch with their support systems. And then you have people who are isolated and they have depression issues, or they're trapped in abuse. They can't get out of their situations. So it's causing a great deal of upheaval. We saw a lot of spike in people reaching out to us for help for their loved ones. We're still sending people we have a partnership with a group in North Carolina called Bethel Colony of Mercy. It's an inpatient adult program, faith-based. And we've been sending people down there for us at record numbers during the last several months.
What's nice now, Tammy, is for those women who are struggling as well, about a year ago, they opened up a women's campus so that we now can send men and women. For a few years, it was just for men.
Oh, I see. And your addiction recovery program is unique compared to other addiction recovery programs, from what you told me. Part of what locks in addiction, it's kind of like smoking cessation. When you have an individual that is triggered by his environment or by his family, then that addiction can continue. And you, in taking this unique approach, help to prevent those triggers. What is your approach? And why do you send people out of state?
So for us, when people come to us, we see ourselves as a triage unit. People come off the streets. We have people who are recovered addicts who've been clean and sober for a number of years. We have people who are recently clean, and we have people who are actively using. When people come to us and they're using heroin or fentanyl or any type of addictive hard substance like that, we've partnered with nonprofits around Cleveland who do detoxification, medical driven, and they'll do it for us free of charge. So we first get them detoxed if they're willing to go, free to them. If they're willing to get detoxed, we will then send them to this North Carolina facility at our expense. We'll pay transportation costs, we'll pay their admission enrollment fees to be into the program. So there's no financial barrier to get detoxed and to get a 90-day minimum inpatient programming. The beauty of North Carolina is that it's not here. When you get people, and if anybody who's watching has had a loved one who struggled with addiction, most of the time, if they get placed in a residential program locally, they'll walk away. They can easily find a friend who will come and get them. They can get on a bus. They know how to get home. But if you send somebody 13 hours away into the mountains of North Carolina, they're not going to walk away. It becomes much more challenging to quit. So because of that, we've had a very high success rate of people who go down to North Carolina, complete the program, and then come back to us for aftercare. We have an 85% success rate of people who stayed clean for at least 1 year of their returning to Cleveland.
And so
National average is 4%.
So Tammy, when they come back, like Mike said, we really try to hold them accountable. They continue to come to our RU meeting. We'll go through books with them. I might take a Monday night with a guy, someone else takes Tuesday night. So we try to hold them accountable every day. Then once we trust them because they're clean and sober, we go into the True Freedom Enterprises part. We then reach out to our partners who love what we do and find them meaningful employment.
That's wonderful. And all these things are intermingled. What people don't realize, and I went to one of the events that was held in the Marriott, and it was a beautiful event. And there were some individuals who were involved in some of these programs that went up there and spoke about their lives and how they got incarcerated. And a lot of the incarcerations start with drug addictions, with drug use, or some of the things that they get involved in criminally because they're taking drugs and they're not necessarily in their right mind. So it's an intermingled sort of program to help prevent people from getting incarcerated. So you have this drug your recovery program, and if people have those issues and then they end up in prison, you also have these programs that will help them to reintegrate into society afterward. And that was one of the things that was brought up in the event, which I was unfamiliar with, like Marble Room and the Marriott and so many other programs around town have these pre-release work programs that to me are pretty amazing. Which are some of the vendors that you work with, some of the companies? How does that program work? Why is it a good program?
Yeah, so just some numbers. You're absolutely right. 85% of people who are in prison had a drug or alcohol problem prior to going in. So for us, keeping them clean and sober when they come home is essential to their reentry. The second thing is unemployment for ex-offenders. Nationally, the unemployment rate for ex-offenders is 75%. In an economy, even now, we only have a 7% unemployment rate. So that not being able to find a job and not being able to stay clean are the two largest factors that drive people back to prison. So a few years ago, we launched our work release program that would allow us to take people out of prison and place them in an externship. We started with a group of women at the women's prison downtown, and we were taking them to culinary arts facilities around Cleveland. Our first location was the Virgil Brown building, has a cafe on the 4th floor, which we call the Second Chance Cafe. It's run by 7 currently incarcerated women who graduated with a culinary arts degree while they've been in prison. And they're able to demonstrate that skill for 90 days prior to their release. The Marble Room was our second restaurant that we added to that. So they were able to go from a county facility to a private fine dining facility and get really high-end experience. So during the time prior to COVID, we ran that program for 1.5 years. We had, I think, 7 women get out of prison who were in the program, get hired full-time with benefits at the Marble Room. And one of them is the head pastry chef now. One of the ladies got promoted to be the first shift floor manager at Il Venetian restaurant. So our ladies have been very successful who've graduated from the program. In 2019, we added trades for men. We had a commercial painting crew. We started with moving to Kent every day. Then we had manufacturing facilities. And just this year, in January, we reached out to Relink Medical. And we were training our guys to do high-end medical triage, shipping and receiving, and testing. So we're getting a wide variety of employers who have been very interested in partnering with us. We just started another company this past week called Woodpeckers Inc. They make high-end commercial wood fabricating tools. 200 employees. They just now took on 4 of our guys. So pretty much any company who has a need, we have people who can work there.
And Tammy, manufacturing has really come back. I think redoing deals with China, NAFTA. We just every week, Mike and I get calls from manufacturing and city saying, hey, will you guys come out and present? We want your guys. There are now more employers that want our guys than we have guys, which is a good problem to have.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of just giving somebody the opportunity because they never had those opportunities. Right. And that goes back to the youth programming that you guys do. I think one of the worst things that I actually saw ever in my life is in your PowerPoint presentation, how you show these small children in handcuffs. Yeah. And how they can start this process of incarceration at a pre-adult stage. And then the problem is these children, because they usually come from broken homes and they don't have that support system we talked about earlier, they can get caught up in the system lifelong. And the fact that you guys are getting involved while they're younger really makes a huge impact. What are some of the success stories that you've seen because of your involvement?
Yeah, the juvenile ministry is heartbreaking, as you've seen. The average age at the juvenile detention center that you visited is 12, but there's been children as young as 6 years old incarcerated in that facility, having committed adult crimes. About 2,500 children a year go through that detention center. 500 will get sentenced and sent to a juvenile prison, where they'll actually serve years of their lives for these crimes. So it's heartbreaking to see. I have young children, and to see children younger than my kids in cells is heartbreaking. We have seen success. We've had at the juvenile detention center, we've had a lot of former gang members come to faith, request to be baptized, go through a discipleship program. So it's been rewarding for us to see lives being changed. As you mentioned earlier, the abuse, it's almost 100% the kids have gone through abuse. I could walk into any room in that facility and I can tell you every kid's story with having never met them. It's almost universal physical abuse, sexual abuse. And these kids are being raised by strangers of strangers. And back in the 80s, they were raised by their mom at least. Now they're not being raised by their mom, and they're angry, they're feeling rejection. So being able to step in and show a young child that someone cares about you, that you have great value in the eyes of the Lord and in our eyes as well, and we are here for you, changes lives.
Yeah.
And Tammy, if I could give one quick story, there was a young man at the Juvenile Justice Center. By the age of 16, he had been arrested 17 times. At age 10, his mother put him on the streets to sell drugs at age 10. At 12, she handed him a gun so he could better carry out his duties as a drug dealer. And so he through counseling and Jimmy Smith really pouring in, surrendered his life to Christ and wants to obey Jesus. And so things like that keep us going because we work with a high risk population and we're privileged to do that. But stories like that keep us going.
Yeah. Well, I was sold. The fact that, somebody Frank had introduced me to your organization, and I am animate about wanting to understand an organization before I get involved, before I promote it, because there are some organizations that they're, 4 walls and people can go there and get help, but they're not as aggressive in doing the things that you guys are doing to change lives. So I went to 3 or 4 different locations where I saw that you fed the homeless, that you trained those coming out of prison, that you fed and you ministered to, those that were dealing with addiction. And then Frank and Mike had encouraged me to go tell my story in the Girls Youth Detention Center, which was interesting for me. It was uncomfortable. I never told my story, and a lot of people don't know this about me. So I'm gonna, kind of be a little vulnerable here. I grew up extremely impoverished. We lived in inner city Cleveland. And when you talk about families not having foods and children being neglected and there being a lot of abuse, that was my life. I remember at very young, probably 3 years old, walking to the local school in the summer times just to get lunch. And my life could have gone on a very different trajectory. And it did kind of start off that way. But God was always strong, whether it was in intuition or early introduction to God and Christianity. I don't know. I just know that God is strong in my life and always been strong in my life. And because of that, I was able to, work through my issues and continue to have drive. And from there, when I went and I told my story, I didn't start with the tough stuff. I didn't start with the stuff that I had been, abused and almost died at the hands of other people on multiple occasions throughout my life, or completely neglected. I started with the fact that I'm a business owner and I am a partner in a gym, one of the largest gyms in Cleveland, in downtown Cleveland, and that I own another facility that I started on my own and ran on my own. And I have money in the bank and I own my own car and I own my own house and I, dress well and it seems like my life is great. And when I was talking to this girls, I was able to capture their attention and then say, I might seem different from you, but I literally probably came from the same beginnings. And you have the opportunity to change your life, and you can do that through God and by listening to some of these people that come into this facility who care about you and care about your future. You have the opportunity in your own hands to change the trajectory of your life so that you can end up and be whatever you want to be. And what you guys are doing, it resonates with me so strongly because my own experience. And so I'm grateful that you guys are doing these sorts of things. And I kind of was introduced to a similar organization when I was pregnant with my first son. It reminds me of True Freedom Ministries a lot. So that introduction really helped to change my life. And I'm thankful for you guys, even though we're only getting started with connecting and helping each other now. Thank you for everything that you do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your support and your passion for what we do.
Amen.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to get you guys on video today was so that you could share what you're doing, which is really important. You're taking lives that would normally impact society in a negative way, and you're changing their contribution to the world. That's powerful. And over the holiday season, as you mentioned, there's a lot of things that are impacting the struggles of these individuals and the struggles that you guys have with helping these individuals. So Vedas Living has decided that we want to do a donation drive. And what I think was impactful is when you said that these individuals that you're helping, they just need basic necessities. They need like toothbrush, toothpaste. They need, shirts and socks and toilet paper and just the simplest things that we take for granted every single day. So we are putting together this video, and then the community of Vedas Living and our members and anyone else who wants to get involved, the objective is to put together boxes. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can see this box I don't know if you can see this in the background, but just boxes that we're putting together that would either be for a man or a woman, and basic necessities are put in the box. We're going to have some following videos of all the community members and anyone outside the community who wants to help support your mission and all the ways that you're helping individuals. So we ask that people get involved. There's no minimum amount or maximum amount, so people can donate $5 worth of something to maximum $100. So please get involved. We really appreciate it. Are there any suggestions that you would encourage people to donate, because that's what you see is most needed?
And you hit the main things. When people get out of prison, no matter how much time they've done, whether it's been 6 months or 35 years, they're given $75 to re-enter with. And if anyone's gone shopping in any time recently, that doesn't go very far. So we like to be able to provide all the basic necessities that every human being needs. Like you mentioned, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, shampoo, socks, underwear. Socks are very, very valuable for guys coming home from prison, for homeless people. So those basic rudimentary items are huge for us.
If they want to just see all that we do, we have 2 really good websites, truefreedomministries.com, different tabs of all that we do. That might go, wow, I could do that, or I could do this. And if they send an email, it comes directly to me. And then truefreedomenterprises.org, if they're interested in employing, hiring one of our folks. So truefreedomenterprises.org and truefreedomministries.com. Go there, play around with the website, and if they leave an email again, it will come to me and I'll get back to them right away.
Wonderful. That was my next question. And I'll have all of that information below the video so that people can reach out to you directly. If there's any social media sites that you want on there, your website, any contact information, it'll all be available underneath the video. I really thank you both for your time. And
Thank you for having us.
Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and our social media channels. And please donate your time and check out True Freedom Ministries and see how you can get involved with their mission.